Well, a nightmare for some and a huge headache for others. That's how home and business owners are reacting as they return to Port Aransas to assess the damage left by Hurricane Harvey there. Our Brian Burns was in Port A for us today. Brian?
Well, even though the reentry blockades have been eliminated, they've been taken off 361, there's not a lot of people. I mean, even though we saw a couple of hundred, there are not a lot of people back here in Port Aransas because they're waiting until they think it's safe or they're maybe out of town yet. But we did run into several people today who are dealing with that damage and those headaches firsthand.
I was very fortunate. I have minimal water damage upstairs, about 30 inches of water downstairs and in the back apartment, but I have something to come back to. I'm very, very lucky.
Captain Frankie Eichholz, a resident of Port Aransas the past 15 years, showed us the damage around his home, including palm trees that had fallen from his neighbor's yard. He then took us into a back apartment where the water damaged everything inside, from refrigerators and freezers to beds and furniture, as well as the plaster walls.
With 30 inches of water, it'll have to be down to the studs or bulldoze and start again.
But Eichholz says the hardest thing was warning his wife what might happen as they were evacuating.
She was up on the porch and I was making trips, taking boats in my RV across, and she asked, what should I take with me? I said, well, take everything that's important because we may come back and there may not be anything left. And she started crying. I said, hey, it's where we live.
At another house we found badly damaged, friends of the owner showed us what happened after the roof was torn off during the storm. Everything inside was destroyed. So don't worry about where you're standing. And once again, we are at the staging area for first responders in the city of Port Aransas. Joining me now is the Port Aransas Emergency Management Coordinator, Rick Adams. The big reminders for residents here, of course, I guess you'd start with the curfew, right?
The curfew is the big thing right now. Although we've opened the gates, we've let everybody in. We've tried to do that to get this recovery jump started, but we're still a very hazardous area. We're really probably about half into the response mode and trying to move into the recovery mode. So curfew from basically dark to dawn. It's strictly enforced. The police are going to be out in force.
And they don't want traffic on the highway. They don't want traffic on the streets.
There's no traffic on the highway. There's a good chance if you're out on the highway, you could very well be escorted off the island. So if you're here, we're not going to run you off. If you're self-sustaining, it's uncomfortable conditions, but if you're here, you got to stay here until morning.
Any other major points that you want people to know tonight?
Well, again, hazardous. There's still a lot of nails. Basically, we survived a Category 4 hurricane with no fatalities. The last thing we want is somebody falling off a roof, breaking their neck, or having a serious injury. So just be careful. It's not a great place for kids. I know the kids, including mine, would like to come out and check it out. It's just not a good environment. So, like I said, we're going to keep moving. These guys you see behind us have done an amazing job of getting this town back on its feet just a few days after a major hurricane.
Rick, thank you so much. Appreciate you joining us tonight.
Thank you, guys.
And we'll be talking to these folks, obviously, for some time to come as the city recovers from Hurricane Harvey. Live in Port Aransas, Brian Burns, 3 News. Joe?
Yeah, those city planners and emergency planners have just done an amazing job there in Port A and just all along the coastal bend, as a matter of fact.